Hey guys, this is the market update. In this video, we're going to focus on on-chain data leading up into the Bitcoin halving, which is a couple of months away. We're about halfway through the bull market in terms of price and time. This is a really pivotal time. And usually when we break through these price levels that we're at now, that is just an elevator to new all-time highs. Are we there yet? Are we going to get rejected? We'll go through all of this data in this video. Bitcoin is testing this 50K resistance again, which is the major price to break through. And then we just go into price discovery, in my opinion. You can see here we have the ascending wedge. In the last video, we were looking at the price still in this, and it's just broken through this. You can see that. And then we're coming back to this 50K resistance. That was the ETF resistance that knocked us down. We're meeting some, little resistance here as well. You have to expect at this price level for a lot of consolidation and resistance here, because when we break through this, it's pretty much price discovery to new all-time highs. I'll show you all of that data here. You can see that the 50K level is pretty much the major resistance zone. So anything under 50K is the first half of the bull market. Anything after that is price discovery in the second half and then massive expansion. That's how I see this. You can see this 50K level in the previous bull market is the level, right? A lot of support and resistance around here. And we're going to get that again here for sure. So that's from a technical perspective. But if you look at Bitcoin's long-term price trajectory as well, we're right here at the trend rate of growth. We always meet rejections at this level. And so this is a pivotal fighting point now that we have to wait at. And as soon as we break through that, that is a massive expansion in the Bitcoin price. And that has happened in each of the previous halvings. So maybe it's a matter of when and not if. When is that timing going to happen? When are we going to get that expansion? Is it now, or do we wait another 6 months? Does that really matter? Because timing is irrelevant if you know the destination. If you do trade, check out Bybit, link in description, up to 30,000 deposit bonus there as well. But you can see here that this 50K level from a technical perspective is going to be huge. If you look at each time in the Bitcoin cycle that we've come into the trend rate as well, which is right where we're at now, 50K, you can see each and every time we reject from this majorly. So in the previous bull markets, when we break through the trend rate, you can see this rejection that we got. And that was a big rejection to the downside here, big rejection, and then you reverse. And then when you break through this, it's not like a smooth sailing kind of thing. We just go straight up in an elevator to the top line. You can see that here, this was the pandemic. So this is slightly misleading, but we came into this, we got rejected from it. And then the next time we tested it, you can see a small rejection. But as we break through, it's literally an elevator upwards to the all-time highs for that cycle. So we are still in the lower half of this bull market, but we're basically halfway through in terms of price moves, right? And so yes, we may reject from this price level, but again, just like previous bull markets, it doesn't matter that much, right? Because this is a buy zone. You reject from it, it's still buying. You're at this level, you're still buying, and you're waiting for this breakthrough. When you break through this, it is usually in the previous bull markets, a time period of, as you can see here, around 15 weeks. These are week charts right here. As we break through around 15 weeks, that's all you get. Once you break through, once it goes, you have a 15-week time period where it just goes straight up in a line towards this top line. So where we are right now is massive in terms of rejections that we might get to the downside. Don't get shaken out of your coins at this level. Where we are right now is the time to hodl right here, get through the halving, wherever they cut rates and whatever that's going to happen. That is the time where Bitcoin just goes 15 weeks, 15 to 20 weeks is going to be up to new time high. So that could be now. It's a little bit early. It could be after the halving at some point, but we're still in that buy zone. But something is going to happen within the next 6 to 12 months that drives us to a new all-time high. It looks like that. We're preparing for it just like other cycles. So it's a massive, massive time. Definitely not taking profits here. You can see that we're just waiting. How long that's going to be, we don't know. But I'll show you how each cycle has actually played out previously as well. Not just prices, but also on-chain metrics can tell us when Bitcoin is actually overbought. We're way far away from being overbought now. I updated some on-chain stuff in the Crypto Investor course in January, right here, how to read them and how to kind of, have your buys and sells around the on-chain metrics. So I recommend that. Also updated it in January with my latest research on the Bitcoin halving, what's happening in crypto, and everything else. You can check that out via the link in the description. We are about 400 days through this halving cycle right now. As you can see, we're in black right here. We're tracking just like every other cycle. It's very, very, very similar. And Bitcoin usually tops out in its price around 800 to 1,000 days after the end of each cycle, or the start of each cycle. So we're halfway through in time as well. You can see here in the black, we're tracking just the same as every previous cycle, right? It's very, very similar. And there's nothing to suggest to me that we aren't going to just carry on just like Bitcoin has done previously. So we're halfway through in terms of price. We're right at the trend rate of growth right here in price, and in time, we are right halfway through this cycle. Now, most of the gains come in the second half of the Bitcoin cycle, the second half of this. So that's what we're looking out for. So certainly not taking profits. We want that big kind of upswing after the halving that we usually get. So halfway through the Bitcoin cycle, you can see that here as well. This is each halving cycle, and they have exactly the same kind of, moves upwards, rejections, consolidations. We're moving up. After the Bitcoin halving, which is right here, around 400 days or so, you usually get a high. So we're coming into it, and from previous cycles, we have a lot of price appreciation to go if we're going to keep with those cycles as well. With rate cuts on the horizon, right, then that would suggest there is a lot longer to go in the price appreciation for BTC this cycle as well. All of the noise and speculation around Bitcoin is very unhelpful. We know that this asset just moves as a mirror to central bank liquidity and interest rates. And so we just can track that. And people were bearish at 15, saying it's going down lower. They're going to be bullish when it's 80, 90. But we know exactly how these cycles work out each and every time, because Bitcoin is not a stock, doesn't do anything apart from mirror central bank liquidity. So we can see from MVRV Z-score here, we're still very, very early. In previous bull markets like this one, we got a big rejection here. That was the pandemic. But other ones, the other two, we got some rejections, but these were just higher lows over time. When MVRV gets up to about 6 or 7, if you want to look at this is a free website, look into Bitcoin. When MVRV is 5, 6, and 7, that is a really mature price, whatever Bitcoin is at. We don't know where it's going to get in terms of its price, but MVRV shows us when Bitcoin is very, very over and above its trend rate of growth. And so if MVRV is getting 5, 6, and 7, you're getting towards the top of a bull market. And so just have that in mind if you're looking to trade out for this cycle, take some profits, or maybe just scale back buys, or if you're really long term, maybe you just keep buying. But we're not even at 2 now. We're still so early. So when we get up here at 5, 6, and 7, you can see that usually signals the top of bull markets here. So again, we're still way early in this cycle, but we're coming into some expansion here. This is from TechDev as well. Seems very complex, but essentially what we have here in white is global liquidity. And global liquidity seems to move in these waves, right? So it inflects to the upside and then it comes down. It inflects to the upside and then it comes down, upside and down, but essentially higher lows, right? So liquidity is being poured into banks and through central banks to try and prop up asset prices around the world. Bitcoin is a mirror to this. This down here as well, what you can see is a mirror to the central bank liquidity. So what we can see is that each red zone right here, when liquidity is at its lowest, so this is liquidity low, red zone, that's when Bitcoin seems to have a low within its bear market, right? So we have another red zone and then a red zone here. Bitcoin seems to be at a low in its bear market. Red and red are the two bear market lows right here in the previous cycles. As we get into green, this green triangle is when we inflect, right? And that is when Bitcoin tends to inflect to the upside in its recovery zone. So green are the recovery zones. And then as we come down into this orange, that is the top of a Bitcoin bull market. So this inflection right here, and we have the top of Bitcoin bull markets. The liquidity cycle is a mirror to Bitcoin, and people expect us to be going into increasing liquidity worldwide. China's already doing it. Europe's in a recession basically, so they'll start doing it. And the US is a little bit different because they have so much fiscal stimulus right now. The central bank and Jerome Powell screaming like, we can't really stimulate that much because you're spending so much on the fiscal side. So I don't know if we're going to get this huge gush of liquidity from the US central bank because, of course, they're fighting so much liquidity on the fiscal side. So it's a little bit of a strange one, this cycle. But you can see red is the bear market low. We've just crossed over green, which is the recovery. And so the trend here is that we're going down to this orange zone again, which would be a high for the Bitcoin cycle. So that's the cycle that we're in. It's the halving, it's interest rates, it's liquidity. The trend is very clear. We're in an uptrend in Bitcoin. We're in an uptrend for liquidity. And so again, halfway through, broken through this zone into the area where Bitcoin has every previous cycle gone into that price discovery mode. So it's an exciting time to be in Bitcoin right now. So if you are wondering about prices here, look, we're at 50K. We're at the trend rate of growth. So I don't think Bitcoin is expensive here. I think it would be expensive at 120K if we get there, 100, 120K. That would be the top end of a cycle. And so, yes, that's when Bitcoin is expensive. Right now, it's not. We're at the trend rate of growth. And anything underneath that has to be bought. And I know it's volatile. We could get a 30% down move or something like that. But the way that Bitcoin moves, a 30% down move is an opportunity to dollar cost average because Bitcoin goes up around 40% a year. So we can see this. This is the CAGR of Bitcoin, the compound annual growth rate, 4-year compound annual growth. So Bitcoin, yes, its returns are diminishing over time. You can see that the orange line is coming down. But it seems like we're going to oscillate around 30 to 50% for the 4-year CAGR right here. So this is going to be for this halving cycle. So Bitcoin is going up 30 to 50% on a yearly basis. So rather than trading this cycle, if we actually want to invest in Bitcoin, we have at least a 1 or 2 cycle time horizon, right? 4 to 8 years. You're going to be making 40 to 50% annualized returns in BTC if you just dollar cost average. And that is buying the highs as well, because this has all price history. So if you're buying the absolute pico top every single cycle, you're still making, as long as you're dollar cost averaging regularly, like each week, if you did that for 8 years, you'll be making 50% annual returns on Bitcoin, even if you're buying at the pico top. So this is why it's an attractive asset. This is why the ETFs exist, because people are looking at this thing and saying, wait, I can just invest for 8 years and I can get 40 to 50% annual returns. The S&P is returning me like what, 7, 10? The NASDAQ maybe 15, something like that. And this is 50. So this is why people want to allocate some, money to BTC. In terms of Ethereum here as well, it's actually annualizing around 80 to 100%. As you can see, it's much more volatile and it doesn't have the history. This is obviously going to come down as well over time as it matures. But, Ethereum is annualizing, 60 to 100%, as you can see here, even if you're buying these pico tops. So if you have a long-term time horizon, these assets are outperforming pretty much everything else. For me personally, Bitcoin is the, very decentralized and worldwide broad index. Ethereum isn't really an index for me. It's more of a platform. Bitcoin is the index. So if you just want to invest in indexes like S&P, NASDAQ, Bitcoin is a diversified index, but it's annualizing at 50%. Bitcoin is still the best risk-adjusted large-scale investment out there. This is the Dow Jones and the S&P indexes versus Bitcoin. It has the highest Sharpe ratio, so the risk-adjusted returns are better than the other two. Despite massive volatility, you're getting paid over and above that to hold the asset in your returns. So volatility is great to the downside because you can allocate more at lower prices, and usually you get paid for that through price appreciation eventually if you hold it. So that's why the ETFs exist. That's why all of the top firms want to allocate this and actually have it in their portfolio, because it is actual alpha, it's outperformance. So 50K is the resistance zone, right? We should expect to reject off this or consolidate under this for a while until the central bank gives us the go ahead to say, look, we're dropping rates, we're going to stimulate. That is when Bitcoin obviously goes up to that second phase, which is very recognizable, and it usually happens fast within 15 to 20 weeks, you're just straight up in the line to that top, top band. We're not there yet. And so it's still time to be patient, in my opinion. If you do trade, check out Bybit, 30,000 deposit bonus, link down below. The Crypto Investor course with the updates as well, if you want to check that out and become part of the community. I'm James, it's MoneyZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.